The first thing Ryan registered was the cold. It wasn't the mild chill of a poorly heated cabin. It was the kind of cold that bit into bone, that made every muscle lock tight in protest. His breath fogged in the dim light, each exhale reminding him he was still alive, though his body protested the fact. Then came the second sensation, weight. Something soft and warm pressed against his chest, clinging tightly, almost desperately. His half-frozen mind struggled to piece things together. Had he found another survivor? He cracked his eyes open. That's when his brain short-circuited. A girl lay curled against him, her bare form wrapped around his for warmth. Her skin shimmered faintly under the pale light filtering through the wrecked hull of his downed fighter. Not like any skin he'd ever seen. Silvery with subtle iridescence. It caught the light in ways that looked almost unreal. Her hair was long and pale, fanning across his chest like a spill of moonlight, and when she shifted slightly in her sleep, he realized just how close they were. "Okay," Ryan muttered under his breath, trying not to panic. "Don't freak out. Don't freak out. Definitely freaking out." He wriggled carefully, trying not to wake her, but her arms only tightened around him. A soft sound escaped her lips, half sigh, half whimper, and Ryan froze. His pilot training had prepared him for mechanical failure, evasive maneuvers, even crash survival. Nowhere in the manual was there a section titled, "What to do when an alien girl decides you're a space heater." For a moment, he just lay there, staring at the twisted metal of the wreck around him. His ship had gone down hard after a skirmish at the edge of uncharted space. He'd blacked out during re-entry, certain he wouldn't wake up. Yet here he was, alive, freezing, and apparently adopted as a blanket by someone who clearly wasn't human. The girl stirred, her luminous eyes fluttering open. They weren't any color he knew, shifting between blue and violet like liquid light. She blinked at him groggily, confusion crossing her delicate features, and then realization struck. With a startled gasp, she jerked back, her silvery skin flushing faintly along her cheeks. Ryan sat up too quickly, smacking his head on a bent support beam. "Ow! Great first impression, Ryan." The girl covered herself instinctively, her expression a mix of embarrassment and fear. She spoke then, soft, musical words in a language he didn't recognize. The cadence was unlike any human tongue, lilting and fluid. Ryan held up his hands in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. Hey, it's okay. Not here to hurt you." He tapped his chest. "Ryan." She hesitated, then mirrored the gesture. "Kara," she said softly, her accent wrapping strangely around the syllables. Ryan repeated it clumsily. "Kara." Her luminous eyes softened, just a fraction. Despite the awkwardness, a fragile understanding had formed between them. Two strangers, stranded in a frozen wasteland, clinging to the only warmth they could find, each other. The wrecked fighter provided little comfort. Metal creaked under the strain of icy winds, and frost crept along the jagged edges of the hull. Ryan rubbed his hands together, blowing warm breath into his fingers. His flight suit had taken most of the impact damage, but insulation was another story. He could already feel the cold gnawing at him again. Kara sat across from him now, wrapped in one of the emergency blankets he'd dug out from a smashed storage locker. The silvery shimmer of her skin peeked through the folds, and she watched him with a curious intensity, as though trying to decipher every twitch of his face. "Yeah, I know," Ryan said, voice half teeth chatter, half sarcasm. "Real glamorous. You crash land, freeze half to death, and some alien girl finds you looking like an idiot." She tilted her head at his tone, then pointed at the thin strip of ration bar he'd offered. "Food?" she asked, the word clumsy but recognizable. "Yeah, food." Ryan held up his own piece. "Not exactly five-star dining, but it'll keep you alive." Kara took a small bite, chewed, and immediately grimaced. She muttered something sharp in her language, clearly unimpressed, but forced herself to finish it. Ryan smirked. "See? Not so different. Everyone hates rations." The brief humor faded as reality pressed back in. Through a jagged hole in the fuselage, Ryan could see the endless expanse of snowfields stretching toward jagged mountains in the distance. This wasn't just some forgotten tundra. This was a dead world. No birds, no trees, no signs of life. Just ruin and silence. Kara seemed to sense his unease. She pressed her hand flat against the icy wall and whispered a few words. When he raised an eyebrow, she turned back, eyes shimmering faintly. World broken. Ryan frowned. Broken? Like war? Disaster. She nodded slowly, then spread her fingers wide, mimicking an explosion. Machines. Destroy. That one word, machines, landed heavy in Ryan's gut. He leaned back against the frozen hull, exhaling. So this isn't just a bad ice age. Something killed this place. Kara hugged the blanket tighter, gaze downcast. It wasn't just her body language. Ryan could read it in her expression. This wasn't history from a textbook for her. It was something personal, something she'd lived or inherited through generations. A sharp crack echoed from the wasteland, like ice splitting under massive weight. Ryan stiffened. Kara's head snapped up too, eyes narrowing. Not alone, she whispered. Ryan grabbed the emergency flare pistol, his only real weapon left. Of course we're not. Why would this day get any easier? From the distance came movement, dark shapes against the white. Tall, angular, moving with a mechanical rhythm. Machines. Ancient maybe, but still functioning, still hunting. Kara locked eyes with him, her fear edged with determination. She gestured toward the mountains. Safe. There. Ryan sighed, shoving the last of the ration bar in his mouth. Figures. Stranded on an ice cube, hunted by killer robots. And my guide is the same girl who used me as a pillow. All right, let's move. Together, they stepped out into the frozen wasteland, their uneasy alliance forged by necessity. The trek across the frozen wasteland was grueling. Wind sliced through Ryan's flight suit, and every step felt like trudging through needles of ice. Kara, though clearly affected by the cold, moved with surprising resilience, guiding him with quiet determination. Whenever he stumbled, she paused, offering a steadying hand without a word. After hours of relentless snow, dark shapes emerged from the blizzard. At first Ryan thought they were cliffs, but as they drew closer, he saw the truth. Towering spires of stone and metal, half buried under centuries of ice. Symbols etched into the walls pulsed faintly, as though alive despite the ruin. Kara's expression shifted. Awe and sorrow mingled as she whispered, "Home, before." Ryan let out a low whistle. "Guess your people knew how to build things that last. My apartment barely makes it through a winter storm." Inside the ruins, the air was still and heavy, yet warmer than outside. Strange crystal conduits glowed faintly, their light illuminating hallways carved with murals of battles, machines, and stars. Ryan ran his gloved fingers over one, frowning. "Looks like a history book written on walls. Guess even advanced civilizations liked their graffiti." Kara stopped before a massive doorway. Embedded in its center was a shard of something metallic, humming faintly. She pointed at it. "Core piece." Ryan squinted. "That little thing? Looks like junk." She shook her head firmly. "Key." Before he could respond, the floor trembled. From the shadows at the edge of the chamber, something stirred. A massive construct of jagged limbs and glowing eyes, its body cobbled from shards of broken machines fused together. It moved with a grinding roar, like the bones of the planet itself. Ryan's stomach dropped. Of course it's guarded. Why wouldn't it be? The construct lunged. Kara spun, staff flashing with bursts of energy that cracked against its metallic hide. Sparks flew, but the beast kept advancing. Ryan dove aside, narrowly avoiding a clawed strike that carved a trench into the stone floor. Scrambling, he spotted a console built into the wall, lit faintly, like it was waiting for something. Without thinking, he slammed his hand against it. The ruins came alive, symbols glowing brighter, circuits sparking with energy. The construct froze mid-swing, its glowing eyes locking onto Ryan. For a tense second, he thought he'd just made himself target number one. Instead, the machine shuddered, then lowered its claw. The shard embedded in the doorway pulsed in sync with the lights. Kara's eyes widened. You linked. Ryan stared at his hand on the console. Linked? No, wrong guy. I don't do cosmic chosen one gigs. But the shard slid free with a resonant hum, floating into his palm. Warm, alive somehow. Kara stepped closer, her gaze filled with both awe and confusion. Key, she repeated softly. You, Ryan groaned. Great, stranded on an ice planet, hunted by robots, and now I'm carrying the magic battery. Story of my life. The shard pulsed faintly in Ryan's hand, casting soft light across the ruined chamber. It felt alive, as if it were watching him as much as he held it. Kara stood close, her violet eyes reflecting both relief and unease. Core, she said, pointing toward the horizon beyond the ruins. Need join. Ryan rubbed a hand over his face. Figures. Can't just grab the thing and go. There's always a step two. They set out again, this time guided by the shard itself. It emitted a low hum whenever Kara pointed them in the right direction, leading them across the frozen wasteland toward what she called the dead zone. The dead zone made the wasteland look hospitable. Nothing grew there, not even ice. The ground was blackened, scarred by ancient battles, and twisted wreckage of machines lay in heaps like bones of titans. The air buzzed with static, making the hair on Ryan's arms stand on end. At the center loomed a colossal structure, half-buried yet unmistakably alive with dormant power. It resembled both a fortress and a machine, veins of crystal running through its walls. The shard in Ryan's hand pulsed harder as they approached, almost eager. Guess this is the plug socket, Ryan muttered. Inside, the structure was a cathedral of silence. Every footstep echoed, every breath felt intrusive. They reached the core chamber, a vast sphere of crystal and metal, cracked but still glowing faintly, like the dying heartbeat of a world. Kara gestured to the central pedestal. Key there. Ryan hesitated. And when I do this, what? Lights come back on. Planet warms up? Or do we both explode? She met his gaze, steady and unflinching. Hope. That one word silenced his sarcasm. Slowly, Ryan stepped forward and pressed the shard into the pedestal. The world seemed to exhale. Light exploded through the chamber, racing along conduits that had lain dormant for centuries. The floor thrummed, walls vibrating with power. Outside, the dead zone stirred, the sky shifting, black clouds tearing apart to reveal faint hints of blue. Snow melted into rushing streams. Machines that had stalked the wasteland froze, their lights flickering out. Kara fell to her knees, tears slipping down her luminous cheeks. She whispered something in her tongue. Thanks, prayer, relief all woven together. Ryan stood frozen, staring at the transformation. Well, guess it worked. You're welcome, planet. Kara rose and stepped close, placing her hand over his chest. Ryan, she said softly, voice trembling but sure. Not human only. Guardian. He huffed out a laugh, shaking his head. Guardian? Lady, I'm just a pilot who keeps crashing in the wrong places. But he didn't pull away. For the first time since waking in the wreck, warmth filled the air. Not just from their bodies, but from the world itself stirring back to life. They stepped outside together and saw it. The first sunrise this planet had known in ages. Golden light spilled across mountains, steam rising as frost surrendered to warmth. It was beautiful. Ryan glanced at Kara. She stood tall, silver hair gleaming, her eyes reflecting hope instead of sorrow. Whatever future lay ahead, rebuilding, surviving, maybe even leaving, this moment was theirs. He stretched, groaning. Well, Kara, looks like your broken world's got a second chance. And somehow, so do we. For the first time since his crash, Ryan didn't feel stranded. He felt exactly where he needed to be,